Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Didn't Sign Up for This. We are gathered together again tonight to talk about these things that so greatly impact our lives, hopefully. Carrie, what have we got on the agenda?
Hey, Tim, I want to talk about picking our battles. In life, we all have confrontations at times, and we all have arguments or opportunities to healthily discuss things that we want to fight for. And I will tell you that I generally, as a rule, I shy away from confrontation. I'm that person that shuts down. But every once in a while, I will realize that instead of being quiet and reserving my thoughts, that there's something worth fighting for. And I don't know that we do enough analysis on when to fight for what we want and when to wave the white flag or throw in the towel and realize that maybe it's not the road we want to go down. I really think that conflict causes a lot of issues in relationships, and it's never a good story. It's never well, we had amazing conflict and we're all happy now, which would be interesting, but not a world I want to live in either. I think that conflict can lead to miscommunication or lack of communication. And so I think we need to visit that. I think it's important. What do you think?
I like the sound of it. So what are you seeing, whether it's your opinion or clients that you're thinking about? How are people, in fact, picking their battles?
Well, I don't think they do. I think they react to their battles. And I worked with a client, it's been about a year ago now, who, bless her heart, she was a fighter. She loved to fight. She would come out swinging every time. And it didn't lead to any happiness. You know, it's okay to take a stand for yourself. It absolutely is okay to take a stand for yourself. Fight for your right. You know, Beastie Boys said it well. Fight for your right to party.
Wait a minute. I thought wasn't that the CD that your mom wouldn't let you have? What's going on here? You bought that?
Shh, don't tell her.
Oh my God.
Don't tell her. Oh, are you kidding me? I won that battle. I snuck that thing into my house and listened to it all the time.
Well, all right.
I woke up late for school. No, okay, I don't need to quote it. Anyway.
The only thing I can think to say is, I absolve you of your sins, my child. All right, let's move on. Feels like a confession.
Good. You just took on a lot more than you realize.
Oh.
But it really, so knowing when to pick your battles. I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. Let's say that I'm married and I like for my husband to take out the garbage, and he doesn't like to take out the garbage. Okay, do I really want to fight him on that? Or do I just want to say, babe, I will take out the garbage? Because I will tell you that I'm going to take the damn garbage out when I feel like the garbage needs to be taken out. I'm not going to rake somebody over the coals because they don't want to take out garbage. If I want it out, I get up and do it myself. And that doesn't make me special. That just makes me a person who likes to avoid conflict and get something done when it needs to be done. And, you know.
But does that build up? Do you hold that against someone on a long-term basis? I mean, if you do that for 20 years, does that eventually become resentment?
No, I don't think so. I think it's about accepting your partner for what they contribute. And maybe, I don't know, what if we lived in a world where I loved you unconditionally and you loved me unconditionally, and if you didn't take the garbage out, then I was able to just let it go? Because at the end of the day, that garbage doesn't mean anything to the impact of our relationship.
Well, you run the risk of doing absolutely everything if you're married to the wrong person. You know, I mean,
Right.
and I come at that from the perspective of what you just described was my relationship with Bo, who doesn't like to do really much of anything in terms of housework or cleaning up or even brushing his own teeth, right? And so I have to go in there and make sure that almost everything happens. Although that's changed a little bit. It's weird. He's taken to making beds and cleaning his room here lately, just as a 22, 23-year-old man. He's like making beds and cleaning his room and putting his stuff away and organizing his junk all of a sudden. So, maybe a slow and patient, gentle persuasion methodology does work if you've got a couple of decades to pour into it. But no, I guess the inherent question was, if you find yourself with the wrong person or in the wrong job or in the wrong relationship where that type of behavior on your part becomes a given, i.e. taken for granted, then I think eventually you would find yourself doing absolutely everything. At some point you have to stand up and say, look, this is just not reasonable or fair. I don't feel respected. I don't feel loved because you don't participate adequately in whatever it is, the garbage or the rearing of children or the producing of income or the whatever it is, right?
But here's the thing. We go into a relationship loving that person, warts and all. And somehow along the path, we forget that we loved them warts and all. And so all of a sudden we're nitpicking and we're overanalyzing and we're not communicating. And, and I don't want to make this a relationship podcast because there's so much to it on all of the different levels. You have to pick your battles with your family, your friends, your coworkers, your boss, your person that you love more than anybody in the world, your children, your dogs. I mean, come on. We both have dogs that you kind of have to pick that battle. And I told somebody the other day that if my dog Lucy had opposable thumbs, I'd probably be held hostage in my house because she's psychotic. But I love her, she's a little clingy, a little needy. And so, anyway.
You be at the bottom of the well putting on lotion.
I would. She'd be like, rah, 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 rah. And that means it puts the lotion on its skin.
All right. Anyway, she's, I don't want to speak evil of that dog. She's a sweet little dog.
Yeah, I know. She really is. Okay. So here's what it boils down to. Conflict is part of all relationships. If you have a relationship with someone on any level, you're not going to see eye to eye every time. But how much damage do you do to the relationships when you don't know how to pick your battles and you're reacting? Because what people fail to realize is that fighting a fight all the time and causing that conflict or reacting to that conflict actually does long-term damage for a short-term investment or a short-term return on investment, I guess I should say. So I'm going to fight this fight and I'm going to win because I'm right. And it's going to mess us up for a very long time. But in this moment, I'm right. And I truly think it takes stepping away from the scenario and being a little more calculated and more proactive versus reactive when you're dealing with conflict. When I was a kid, and by kid, I mean a bratty 13-year-old kid, I had one of the smartest mouths out there because I thought quickly, I was quick-witted, and I was sarcastic. And then I was 13. And there were so many times that I remember, number one, I make a joke about how my mom's backhand came out of nowhere multiple occasions. So when I was growing up, like I'd be standing somewhere and all of a sudden, boom, right in the mouth for something that I said. But I'll never forget, my mom said to me, you are going to struggle with your relationships if you don't learn to control that mouth. And she was right. She was right. And so I worked very hard to get to a point where I did control my mouth. And I remember saying things to people, and it was mainly people that I loved, people that were in my corner. And I would say things to them that I knew hurt them because I was being reactive versus proactive. That's why I shut down when I get angry, because I don't want to say anything that's going to hurt someone. And I consciously step back from the situation unless you back me into a corner and you won't let me take that time. One of my dearest friends, she and I grew up together. And we have known each other our entire lives. Our moms were best friends, and we ended up buying a house together. And there were some things that bothered me when we bought the house together. And I don't need to go into the details, but I remember one night where she came downstairs ready for a fight. And I was upset too. And that's what happens when you live together. Like, I could be the sweetest person in the world, but eventually we're gonna have a disagreement. It's normal. It happens. And I told her, I got to my point and I said, look, if we keep going down this road, I'm going to say things that are going to hurt your feelings, and it's not going to be productive. And she kept pushing and she kept pushing. And finally it was like, do you remember the scene in The Mummy where he opens his mouth and all of those bugs come flying out of his mouth? That was my mouth in that moment. And she stood there and her jaw dropped and she flipped me off and walked away. And I'm telling you that anybody listening to this podcast that knows me fairly well would be shocked by that. I always have that disclaimer. It's like the Incredible Hulk. I'm getting ready to change.
Yeah,
I'm getting ready to change.
Yeah.
So I need you to know that I'm getting ready to change. And I have to make a conscious effort to not do or say those things that might hurt people that I care about. Am I perfect at it? No. But that's how I make a plan. Like, that's how I step back from the problem and the frustration and the reactiveness and go, okay, I need you to give me a minute. I just need to breathe. And that takes a lot of effort. How many people do that in the heat of the moment? You have to pause and really think about the end result. And it goes back to what you always say. Do I want what I want, or do I want it the way I want it?
That is a pretty good barometer. Well, and it just occurs to me as I'm bringing up Bo earlier, talking about you don't want to create a relationship that is like that. And then I have to ask myself, why exactly is my relationship with Bo such that I do a crazy amount of stuff for this kid? And it does not bother me at all. I just enjoy it. I'm grateful for absolutely every minute. And maybe not absolutely every minute, but most minutes, right? Most minutes I'm just like thoroughly grateful for. And I think it boils down to the fact that my expectation of him is so different, low, some people would say. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that I don't expect him to take out the garbage or do the dishes or help clean up or not eat my lunch that I've made the night before or whatever it is. It happens and I go, oh, okay, well, that happened. All right. That it doesn't bother me. And it doesn't bother me because there is no unfulfilled expectation, And so, if you run with that thought, okay, I think we can all agree with William Shakespeare from Henry IV. Discretion is the better part of valor, meaning we achieve or attain valor by virtue of making really good choices about what we're going to fight about, who we're going to argue with, that sort of thing. And so we're picking battles that, number one, we can win. And number two, if we do win, there's actually something to win, which I think is the bigger problem. People fight these battles where there's no upside. Like you said before, I get to be right and feel right for a few seconds. Mm-hmm. The expense is immense. That rhymes.
Expense is immense. That sounds like a t-shirt. Sometimes we get caught up in the fight and forget what we're fighting for.
That's right. We're just going through the motions of arguing with someone, right? So we're not using that discretion. And, the door is opened to run in and fight and, fools rush in where wise men fear to tread. And so we'd run in emotions ablaze and begin to just argue. Our emotions are ablaze. Why? Well, it's because we have these unfulfilled expectations, okay? Why do we have unfulfilled expectations? Because something has happened that we are observing, and it's not enough to just observe something, especially when it's a negative thing. We have to tell ourselves a story as to why the negative thing is happening. And it's that compulsion to tell a backstory that I think creates conflict in the world for the most part. I remember over in the trading field again, which is such a big part of my life, working with an individual who worked for a big news outlet that handled financial news. Now, anybody with a 401k would recognize the name of this outfit that he worked for, and so I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to sound like I'm saying something derogatory about this news outlet. But this is pretty derogatory. What he would do, he worked with them for about 25 years before he retired and went out to sort of trade his own money kind of thing. He would get together with the staff. They would plow through all of the financially related stories, and they would compare the narrative in the story to whatever instrument they were looking at, whether it was the Dow or the NASDAQ or, the euro dollar or whatever it was. Didn't really matter. And they would simply say, here's a pile of good news and here's a pile of bad news as it relates to this underlying instrument, currency, or indices, or whatever it was. If the thing finished down, they would rifle through all of the bad news stories and find the one that they felt like would satisfy people. If it finished up, they would do the antithesis. They'd go through all the good stories and say, good news, the Dow finished higher because of blah, blah, blah. And they didn't know. There's no way to possibly know. But people love a backstory. Why did I lose money today? That's very painful. Well, the thing is, Vladimir Putin, turns out, had a phone conversation with the president of Turkey about this whole silliness in Syria, and Donald Trump listened in. And they were just, people want a backstory. The backstories are meaningless. Okay, so whenever something bad happens to you, you are telling yourself this backstory. And you're just making this thing up. You don't really know what the variables are. But you're very quick to make up whatever your backstory is and roll with it. Just absolutely roll with it. And if this unfulfilled expectation leads to the backstory, and if the backstory that you have made up to explain the unfulfilled expectation defines your reaction, right? If somebody, it's the analogy we used the other day. If somebody slaps you on the back of the head because they're a jerk, then you have one reaction. If they slap you on the back of the head because they were trying to, get a killer bee off of your head, then there's another reaction. One, they hate you. The other, they're trying to save your life. And it doesn't matter what the truth is. The story that you tell yourself defines your reaction to it.
Right. And so what if we told ourselves a story that we didn't have to disagree or fight all the time? I mean, that's possible.
It's more than possible. It's completely possible, plausible, reasonable, usable. It absolutely works.
Right. Well, and I think it's all about, you have to consider the issues that you're fighting for very carefully. If you're really willing to get into an argument, shouldn't it be something other than I'm right and that's it and I just want to win?
Absolutely.
I mean, when did it become a contest to see who could piss the other person off more?
Well, and contest is a really good word in that context, because conflict is inherently competitive, but progress is inherently collaborative. We go into a collaborative situation saying, how can both of us come out ahead, or multiple parties come out ahead? What can we do to make it work as much as possible? with all of the stakeholders involved in this particular decision or business or relationship or whatever it is. We don't do that when it is just competitive. We just don't do it. We go in and say, let me say one thing that will one up the smart-ass thing that you said.
Well, how about the fact that we argue via text now? Like, I have had conversations with friends of mine where I couldn't tell if it was getting heated or not, but finally I would say, why don't you call me? Or let's get together. Let's have this conversation face to face, because anybody will say anything online or via text.
This is true.
Because there's a little bit of a separation from the situation versus we're going to sit down and have a drink and talk through, which as an alternative is way more productive because you have body language. You have all of the communication skills that contribute to making sure that there is no misunderstanding. But I will tell you, I have read into the text from that guy before and been like, oh, really? Oh, really? You're going to say this to me, huh? And he's like, yeah, I was just saying it. I mean, and it's taken out of context and you're projecting your emotion or reaction onto what the person is saying. It can go crazy in a matter of a couple of texts.
Sure. Absolutely it can.
So really, these conversations or these battles or these discussions or the proactive responses, they need to happen face to face. We need that human interaction when we're dealing with important issues.
Because devoid of body language and energy exchange, it's very easy in a text format to say, hey, that's not what I meant. It's very easy for that to be the truth, for you to simply misinterpret what an individual means by virtue of words in a text. And so it seems like people are very aggressive in the texting format, and maybe they are, maybe because of that built-in excuse they are, but maybe at the same time they really just truly mean something completely different and you can't possibly know without, at very least, picking up the phone and talking to them and hearing the tone of voice. Ideally, you sit face-to-face with someone, body language and all, and talk about what you're really talking about.
Well, that's just like with, this is kind of funny, online dating. I had a couple of friends that talked me into setting up a profile, and within 24 hours, it was back down. Because they are so blatant and so in your face with some of the things that they say. But yet, if I was to meet you for a drink or coffee or at the bookstore or in the park to take a walk or whatever, you would be a totally different person than the way that you're coming at me online. And so that ability to be anonymous actually feeds into additional conflict or additional miscommunication because I am projecting a persona that in real life doesn't exist. And so it's crazy to me. It gets you nowhere. You have got to remember when you're interacting about important topics, text messaging is not the way to do it. You pick up the phone. If you want to talk to somebody and talk through something, at least pick up the phone. It doesn't necessarily need to be a face-to-face interaction, but you need to be able to hear the tone and hear the concern that can't be projected via some online or texting forum. But that's what we've evolved into. That's what we're moving into. And the more you see that, the more you're going to see miscommunication and hurt feelings and drama. I think that it's funny because anybody that is coaching someone from a relationship perspective will talk about that face-to-face communication or that face-to-face interaction. When you don't have that, there's so many opportunities for issues. And you have to be proactive. You have to seek it out. There needs to be, you really, if you're going to fight something out, make sure it's worth fighting for.
Right. Well, it's the old line it's actually an old political line in reference to Andrew Jackson once he won the presidency. And that line is, to the victor belong the spoils. And so if there are no spoils, then what good is your victory? And so people just don't think about it in those terms. They don't play above the game. In the world of chess, it's referred to as playing above the game. Are you playing above the game in your relationships? Are you observing the interaction and asking yourself, what do I want? And if what you want is just to yell at someone, then go for it. If what you want is to feel righteous indignation, very easy to attain. Just start screaming and tell yourself how right you are. But if what you want is for them to finish their project on time, or to get a raise, or to have them take out the garbage at home, or whatever it is, then just engaging in this competitive, argumentative conversation is not getting you any closer to that goal. But people don't ask themselves, number one, what they want, and then ask themselves if they are in fact getting closer to what they want or further away. Because I promise you, just belittling someone, just making someone feel bad, that's not getting you any closer to what you want.
No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, it ruins you. It takes years to build trust with someone. And in a matter of a few interactions, you can demolish that trust without even trying, because you're all about being right, or you're fighting that fight. And okay, so I'm going to be completely honest. I can't even imagine at this point in my life, because I have taken my own garbage out continually. I cannot even imagine what it would be like to have somebody even potentially take it out part of the time.
Right.
On a regular basis. Like, I just would be so grateful for that, because I've never had that consistently. I mean, when my parents come to visit, Pop takes it out, and if he doesn't take it out and I end up taking it out, he apologizes to me, and that blows me away. I'm like, I've got this. We're okay. Like, you don't need to do that. But he apologizes for it, because in his mind, he should be taking it out. And because I took it out, it's an issue for him, but it's not for me. I'm grateful for when he does take it out. And it's a small example that, implemented on a larger scale, will improve the relationships you have with your friends or your loved ones. Nobody should have, and really what it boils down to is the need for communication and the dismissal of expectations. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can just openly and freely communicate exactly what it is you want, without telling yourself some crazy backstory about how the person on the other side of the conversation does not want you to have that thing, whatever it is, because that's the trap we fall into. The garbage is there, and the garbage can represent absolutely anything. The garbage is there, third day in a row, fourth day in a row. This person is never going to take the garbage out, whatever the garbage is. And so rather than approach that person and say, hey, am I mistaken, or is garbage your thing? We don't do that. We tell ourselves a backstory about how the person is rebelling against us, or they hate us, or they have no respect or no love. We don't find out what the answer is. We just build the story in our mind, because yet another day of unfulfilled expectations has reared its ugly head, and now we have to explain it to ourselves, and the story we're telling ourselves gets progressively and progressively worse, to the point that we are afraid to engage that person in the conversation, because obviously they are so disrespectful and so hateful. There's no way they have some legitimate reason that they haven't taken it out, or maybe an illegitimate reason that's benign. There is no benign reason that garbage has not been taken out for the 7th, 8th, 9th day in a row now. Obviously, this person hates me. This is going to be an awful conversation. I'm nervous. I'm scared. And so how do I start the conversation? At the top of my lungs, I start the conversation. right?
So you're reacting. You're reacting to your emotion.
You're reacting to your emotion that's caused by the story you've told yourself, which is not based in reality, and that story is laboring under the delusion that you have created to explain this situation away, rather than just going and finding the facts, rather than going to the person on day 1, day 2, and finding out what's going on. We just let it build and tell ourselves a more and more and more morose backstory. And now we're at DEFCON 1, nukes are on the way, and everybody's tense, and so it's got to be a scream fest. But it doesn't have to be. That's a choice you're making.
No, I agree. I think it's funny because I did a little bit of research on picking your battles before we decided to talk about this topic. And one of the recommendations was to not pick a battle that you can't win. I have a real issue with that because if I'm constantly pivoting myself against the people that mean the most to me in my life, there's a lot more wrong than me being right or me choosing my battle that I can win. And it's concerning to me that there's so many articles about how to win your battles or how to pick the right ones. The one thing that stood out to me is you might win this battle, but at the cost of the long-term relationship.
Well, and the thing that occurs to me is the underlying notion. I mean, you look at our condition culturally, and we're literally using the turn of phrase, pick your battles. Discretion is the better part of valor. So next is, who is your target and how do you assassinate? Right? They're very competitive, militaristic, hateful terms. And that's an ingrained part of the culture, unfortunately. Whereas if you were to back up and say, I'm seeking understanding, well, I don't have to pick a battle. I'm just seeking understanding. And I can seek understanding at absolutely any point in any exchange with anyone.
Right. Well, and if you don't communicate, so let's just say that you leave your dishes in the sink. And okay, week 1, every time I go to do dishes, your dishes are in the sink. And I'm putting your dishes in the dishwasher every time. But I don't communicate that to you. So it's really not a pressure point just yet. But I'm not proactively communicating, hey, can you just put your dishes in the dishwasher because I am having to do them. So week 2 comes along and I'm a little more irritated, still not at a boiling point, but it's starting to irritate me because I feel like I'm cleaning up after your dirty dishes all the time. Week 3 goes by, I kind of feel the same. It starts to escalate a little bit. Week 4, I'm like, this idiot can't put a dish in the dishwasher to save his life. Is that your fault or mine? I would venture to say it's mine. Because week 1, when I'm starting to notice it, when I could actually approach the situation without the emotional attachment of yelling at the top of my lungs and blindsiding you with my emotion. Let's just say that week 1, I'm like, Tim, can you please just, if you use a dish, just throw it in the dishwasher because I don't want to get to a point where I feel like I'm doing your dishes. You're going to respect that a lot more than if I wait till week 4 and I am screaming at you to put your dishes in the dishwasher. You're going to be like, put your own damn dishes and mine in the dishwasher because I'm out. And we've all been there. It may not be with dishes or garbage or whatever. But if there's something that I'm starting to react to, if I don't sit down and talk to you, that's on me. That's my responsibility because it's bothering me. You might just go, oh, I'll put these in the dishwasher later. And then I come behind you and do it. And you're like, man, she's awesome. She's so sweet to put my dishes in the dishwasher for me. And I'm like, that asshole can't put a dish in the dishwasher to save his life. And that's a real deal. I've heard of that. I've heard of it multiple times.
Yeah, sure. That's right. You have such profoundly different experiences based on the backstory you're telling yourself. He's calling this, significant other's calling his mom going, this woman is the most amazing. You won't believe it, Ma. Sometimes I leave a dish on my desk because I've been working or, writing or editing or whatever I'm doing. And she will just come in there and pick up that dish and put it in the dishwasher, and it's just done. It just disappears.
She loves me.
Right, exactly. On the heels of working all day, she'll just come home and pick up my dishes. How did I get so lucky? My life is fantastic.
In week 4, it's World War III.
That's right. That's right. Well, because we fail to seek understanding on a regular basis, and understanding, as you pointed out earlier, is really hard to find when it's coming at you via an occasional text message or an inference, right? Because we're getting away from the ability to have meaningful conversations or meaningful dialogue, I should say. And a lot of that has to do with the technology. I don't want to beat that dead horse again, but it's problematic. We've got to figure out some creative solutions to be able to overcome it. Maybe Snapchat everything instead so you can see somebody's face and go, look, if I pick up one more dirty dish,
Yeah. Well, there are 3 things that you should ask yourself every time before you have to go, well, I care about this 2 days from now. Will this really impact my life 2 days from now? Is that one dirty dish that you had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on really going to impact my level of effort or my life in the long term? No, it's not. And then, am I even mad about it? Have you ever, and I know I've done this because I can be feisty. Have you ever fought a fight that you weren't even mad about? But you just kind of took a stand because you wanted to be right?
Yeah, I've done that with you before.
I know.
I've done that with you before in years past, right?
Look. I suggest you start putting your dishes in the dishwasher.
But I mean, I really have. I can remember just different things that we've...
Yeah.
I air quote argued about when
there really wasn't
I'm just
a major argument.
Yeah, I'm passionately arguing on the outside, and on the inside it's like, I want to go get a coffee or something. I'm bored, right? And I'm like, what the hell am I arguing about? What am I doing here? Well, you got to win. You're in it now, in it to win it, right? You got to stick to it. And it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Well, and that's another thing, too. Is it worth your time? Is it really worth your time to have a contentious argument? And if people will evaluate... Now, here's the thing. In the heat of the moment, in that moment where they have just kind of tipped the scale on how you feel and your emotions are high, you have to be able to do the Incredible Hulk thing and go, I'm about to turn. So I need you to back away. I'm going to go to my corner. You go to yours. Let's take a deep breath. And I need to ask myself these questions because 9 times out of 10, the answers to those questions will be no. And you'll realize how stupid you were in the moment. And we all get heated. We all get stupid. We all get feisty. It's an emotion that you can't hide. And are you going to be perfect at it all the time? No. But the more you practice it, the more you practice stopping yourself and asking those questions, the more you're going to have a better relationship. The happier you're going to be in those relationships. I remember one time in particular that you and I kind of argued a little bit, and within 10 minutes I was like, look, I'm really sorry. And I don't want it to be like this. I really, I apologize. And we hugged it out what was it, 20 minutes? I mean, that's the one situation that comes to mind that I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? Hold on. I overreacted. I got emotional, whatever. And I stopped myself but there have been times in my past where I haven't done that. But in that moment, I realized that my collaborative relationship with you was far more important than any other impact in that moment. And I didn't want to damage it. But that's not how it happens all the time. And so you have to take a breather because you can ruin a relationship with anybody in a night if you don't. One night, 1 hour, 2 hours, you could go months without talking and it could just be over. And then you're both sitting there wounded, wishing that you had a better relationship, wishing that it hadn't happened that way, wishing that it could be changed and not knowing where to go from there. So it absolutely is better to take a breather before it starts versus 6 months after when you're trying to reconcile an issue.
So, I mean, it sounds like the secrets to picking your battles is just don't pick battles at all.
No, that makes sense.
Pick some path to greater understanding. And it's a lot better to pick it before you write that soap opera in your head about how how challenging life is with this person. Don't even write the soap opera. Just don't pick a battle. Choose a path to understanding. Choose it immediately. Choose it often. And establish exactly how somebody feels about something.
Well, I agree with you. And that is absolutely an ideal world. And I will tell you that when you fall short of that, the two most important words you can remember are, I'm sorry. I mean, we all screw up. We all get hot-headed. We all let our emotions get the best of us. But a genuine I'm sorry goes a very long way. And it can melt the walls around your heart that you put up when you're dealing with somebody who has hurt you. I do hate that there are so many articles out here that tell you pick your battles. I mean, it really makes life a battlefield.
It does. It does. I was thinking about it the other day because of some of the marketing consulting that I've done over the years, right? And it's all about your target and hitting your target. And don't use a shotgun approach. Use a sniper rifle approach. And what the hell are we talking about, right?
I know.
My God, I sound like a mass murderer. Don't just walk into the bus station willy-nilly with a shotgun. Climb up into the water tower and aim carefully at your targets, right? And it's like, wait a minute, you are talking about marketing still, right? You know, the marketing, when I put together a marketing plan for somebody ready to be executed, it's referred to as a campaign. Well, the word campaign came from Napoleon. That's how he overthrew half the world, half the old world, in campaigns. And it's just like word after word after word that's competitive, not collaborative. It's militaristic. And every word that you are using to get someone to buy something is absolutely interchangeable or synonymous with words that you could use for death or killing someone, obliterating an enemy. And so instinctively, when you say pick your battles, no, don't pick your battles. Don't pick a battle at all.
Pick collaboration. Yeah.
Pick collaboration and thusly find a course of understanding. The minute you're confused about something, call the person. Hey, I just got home. Notice the garbage is still here. Hey, just opened my paycheck. Notice that raise didn't happen just yet like I thought it would. What's going on? As opposed to, I asked for a raise and she told me that I would be getting a raise. And here we are 6 checks down the line. What the hell's going on? She lied to me. She hates me. She wishes I was dead. She wants to fire me. I'm gonna take my 45 and go into work tomorrow and start, whatever, right? No, the first check comes. Hey, what's up? Hey, I just noticed that pay raise we talked about is not reflected in this check. Oh, got caught up in HR. Oh, gonna make it up next week. Or, oh, you'll look into it and see what happened and call me back? Cool. Excellent. But we don't. We tell ourselves some crazy backstory that builds up and that we react to. Pick your battles by never picking a battle. Choose a course of understanding and get together with people and collaborate on what you want to accomplish versus what they want to, not even versus, in collusion with what they want to accomplish. And that's how you're going to get more done, accomplish more, have more, be happier. Immediately just open your mouth and go, hey, I noticed you're parked in my private parking spot. Is everything okay? Is your ankle bothering you? Much better backstory than, you arrogant punk, what are you doing in my spot? Right? But so frequently we choose that second story because we get to be the victim. We get to yell and scream. We get to complain to our friends or significant other or what have you about that arrogant little turd at work parking in my spot. And you don't know what the story is. Yeah, I actually ran out of gas and coasted into that spot. Luckily, I was here an hour and a half before you. And so,
Right.
but we don't tell ourselves the rest of the story. Why are you parked in my spot? Well, because I got here before you again.
So really, it's your time management, not my deal.
It's like, hey, let's just, and it doesn't matter. We're not even looking for fault or blame. We're just trying to get people to look at the whole story. And if you're going to choose a story, which you are going to do, choose a story that makes you the hero and not the victim.
Oh, amen.
That's it.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, alrighty then.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Well, we will wrap it up, put another one in the can, so to speak, and get back together again here in another couple of days for yet another wildly engaging to us conversation. And as always,
Love it.
Thanks to our loyal listener or two for showing up. Thanks to both of you for showing up again.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Well, that's the thing. If we help one person, even if that person is each other, even if that person is, Mom, then we've made a difference in the world. And we've had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs, and it's just good. It's the old notion of planting a tree that someone else will sit in the shade of. And you got to ask yourself, do you go out in the yard and wish somebody had planted a tree? Yeah, absolutely. Well, then plant one so that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, somebody else will be owning this house. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. And the second best time is right now. We just have to take action. Again, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here with us. And as always, dream your life.
And live your dreams.
All right, talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.